110 square feet. A bed, a desk, a closet, amazing aesthetics and functionality, and somehow every answer to a tiny room problem you've been scrolling past for weeks is sitting right here. If you want your tiny room to look like those beautiful Pinterest setups, you want a desk setup that doesn't look out of place, then at the end of the day you still want it to look like a cozy bedroom, this video is for you. Starting with the desk, majority of people don't have a dedicated home office. For the average person, more often than not, your desk is sharing a space with your bed, sometimes it's in a closet, and sometimes it's the same place you have your meals. Given those scenarios, the first question you ask yourself isn't, which desk do I want? It's, which desk can my room accommodate? In my case, after the bed claimed its half of the room, I had about 175 centimeters of depth and 260 centimeters of length to work with. Not the biggest space, and that meant every millimeter mattered. The desk I'm using is the Blacklight Atlas Lite standing desk, which is 160 centimeters in length and 80 centimeters deep. Now, while this works perfectly for me, that might not be the case for everyone. If you're super limited when it comes to space, a wall-mounted flip-out desk would be a much better alternative. Personally, this desk is big enough for my needs, but it's still small enough that the chair can breathe behind it. That last part, the chair clearance and movement, is one area people always forget when decking out a small room. When it comes to the type of desk, you can go the standard route, but just be content with having limited options. On the flip side, a standing desk with programmable heights comes with options you probably didn't think about. Besides the obvious benefits that come with being able to stand, you can also tuck the chair underneath the desk once you're done using it. The result is a bit extra space to move around when you're not using the desk. In a room like this, that's an absolute hack. Now, since storage is equally important in a tiny space, every inch matters. For the desk area, I utilized a bunch of storage options, and starting with this budget-friendly filing cabinet, it helps store away some of the stuff I want out of sight. Aesthetically, it matches the theme of the space perfectly. Another thing you'll want to capitalize on is vertical space, and the best way to do that is with shelves and other storage options. The ones I have here are lug shelves, the Maleras, and a pegboard. As for use case, you can store a variety of things on them. In my case, I've got some decor pieces, a few accessories, as well as plants that are on display, and that makes the room feel less like a tiny office bedroom hybrid and more like a space somebody designed with intent. As for other options, the lens storage system also comes in clutch when it comes to utilizing vertical space. When it comes to the pegboard, I often get asked why I mounted it so high, and deservedly so. Because realistically, nobody mounts a pegboard that high unless they are either very tall or trying to store things for a giraffe. Speaking of which, I'm fairly tall and it fits that space perfectly. In short, it's there more for aesthetics than functionality. Could it be more practical a little bit lower? Absolutely, but it won't look as good in this setup. Now, before someone asks where the clothes go, the closet takes care of that, but there's a tsunami in there, so the most you'll see is me pretending to open it. Anyway, my closet tsunami aside, if you don't have a dedicated closet area, the lane hanging system as well as a space underneath your bed can double up as your closet space. It's not glamorous, but in a room this size or smaller, anything that helps you get some extra storage is absolutely golden. Moving along, if you caught the desk tour, you would have seen a very different monitor sitting here. The 49-inch Samsung Odyssey Neo G9. An absolute unit, and I loved that monstrosity. But right now you're looking at its replacement. The BenQ MA320UP. 32 inches, 4K, and built specifically for Mac users. The colors match what's on the MacBook screen automatically. There's a light sensor that syncs brightness between the two, and it's the kind of thing you don't realize you wanted until you stop fighting display settings every time you plug it in. Diving deeper, it's mounted on the same Ergotron HX arm I used for the Neo G9, which is a bit of an overkill for a 32-inch display, but The benefit of keeping it is that the desk stays clear, and in future, if I ever get something heavier, I'm still good and I don't have to go through the whole entire setup process. Everything else carried across from the desk tour. My Kanto YU2 speakers, Blue Yeti on a mic arm, low-free floor light keyboard and mouse, the Ivanki Fusion Dock Pro 1 Plus, BenQ monitor light, wool felt desk mat, and the DIY shelf I built from timber offcuts. Oh, and before I forget, this amazing chair. If you want to deep dive into any of those accessories, the desk tour is linked in the description box. Today, it's not about what these pieces do individually. It's about how these pieces work in this room. For starters, if you want the studio display look without the studio display pane in your bank account, this BenQ monitor has you covered. It gives the setup that clean, minimal MacBook friendly look without making the whole room feel like it was designed around one screen. And the accessories follow that same idea. They are practical, they look good, and they are relatively affordable, which matters because when you're building out a small space, the budget can't all disappear into one shiny thing. You've got shelves to buy, storage to sort out, light to fix, cables to hide, and probably a laundry pile somewhere plotting its return. Speaking of cables, that's one area a lot of people struggle with, and I totally get it. Cable management is one of those things that looks simple online, but once you get underneath your desk, it suddenly feels like you're about to defuse a bomb. The good news is, with less than $100 worth of items in your Amazon cart, you can clean up most of it pretty easily. I've got a dedicated video on cable management where I break down every single step, so if that's something you're keen to find out, check out the link up here. Alright. Now for the other half of the room, the bed comes into the picture fully, and this is the question I hear a lot of people asking. Where should you actually put the bed? Now, this is heavily dependent on the layout of the room, but what I found works in a room like this is finding the longest uninterrupted wall. Once that's clear, push the bed against the wall. In this room, that wall is opposite the door. Put it anywhere else and the whole layout starts to break. For example, put it dead center underneath that window and suddenly your desk space is completely chewed up. Put it against this wall, the first thing you see when you walk into the room is the back of the bed. But place it against the wall opposite the door and now the bed actually gets to do its job. It anchors the room, gives the layout somewhere to breathe, and lets you bounce the color scheme off it. With the bed placement sorted, next to it you'll need a small nightstand with a lamp. This is important because even in a tiny room you'll still need somewhere to put your phone, a book, or a glass of water. On the wall adjacent to the bed I've got 3 picture frames, and their sole function is to pull your eye up instead of letting it settle on the bed itself. That's a design hack you can use to add visual interest to any space. On the little strip between the bed and the left side of the window are these staggered shelves I mentioned earlier, and this is the exact kind of spot most people would leave empty because it doesn't look like much. But in a small room like this, those little gaps are where you can store miscellaneous items, display some decor, or just add a bit of personality so that the room doesn't feel flat. With everything laid out, nailing the aesthetic is the part that trips most people up. You can have the right bed position, the right desk, the right chair, but the room can still fail to be a spectacle for the senses. Usually that comes down to a few things. First up is the color palette. As you can see, I've got white as the base color, then olive green, rust, walnut, black, and orange as the accent colors. If it's going to be the place you sleep, the place you work, and the place you relax, it has to feel like somewhere you actually want to be. That's the cozy part. The single biggest change I'd tell anyone to make, not just in a small bedroom but in any room, is to stop using overhead lighting as your only source of light. Harsh ceiling light makes any room feel like a hospital waiting room. You need layers, ambient, dusk, and accent lighting. Case in point, for ambient light, I've got the Govee strip behind the desk and it separates the wall from the desk whilst providing a cozy glow. For task lighting, my Xiaomi monitor light fits the belt perfectly and it helps reduce glare from the screen and lights up the desk when I'm using it at night. Everything else, the donut lamp, the mushroom lamp, the IKEA bedside lamp, the LED park lights above the Bauhaus frames, the levitating bulb act as accent lights. That's the trick. Now, I get it. The aesthetic layer is personal and I'm not going to tell you to copy mine, but the principles are the same. Mix hard lines with soft textures. That contrast is what makes a room look conceited. And then of course, the plants. Whether real or fake, they make the room feel alive. Well, there you have it, guys. You can turn 110 square feet or even smaller into a space that actually feels good to live in. If you want to see the entire build process, check out this video. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you over here.